This is a story about a special coral we've been observing over a span of 23 years. But it's also about the remarkable number of fish associated with it. I've counted 36 species of fishes in the last 5 minutes of this video, and I'm wondering if any students of ichthyology can find any more. But first, some introduction. In October 1992, Marge and I were diving with Waikiki cruises in the Solomon Islands. We stopped at a favorite dive site here at Maune Island in the Russells. After spending some time at the primary dive site called Mirror Pond, we swam a long distance following the reef wall until it came to an abrupt end. Ahead of us, we saw a magnificent vista of blue staghorn coral. Years later, Dr. Carden Wallace identified this coral as Acropora yongei, named in honor of the pioneering coral biologist Sir Charles Maurice Young. A few years later, in 1995, we obtained permission to bring live samples back to Hawaii. Here, Marge has collected a few fragments that were lying loose on the bottom. They were carefully wrapped in bags, then placed in a plastic container, and about a week later, they were living at the Waikiki Aquarium. By 1997, at the Waikiki Aquarium, they were growing rapidly, and fragments were shared with other public aquariums around the country. At that time, they were all grown outdoors in the aquarium's coral farm. Sadly, as of 2016, the Waikiki Aquarium has only a small colony remaining in the indoor barrier reef exhibit. But hopefully they'll recognize the value of this coral and will take steps to reestablish it. Meanwhile, the Shedd Aquarium in Chicago has had success maintaining the fragments they received from Hawaii. And finally, the Smithsonian's National Zoo in Washington, D.C. has a panoramic photo of this coral on display. That's the backstory explaining our interest in this coral, and also some insight for those at the Waikiki and Shedd Aquariums and the Smithsonian's National Zoo. In December 2015, Marge and I returned to visit this colony 23 years after first discovering it. Fortunately, despite massive mortality of coral around the world in recent years, this colony endures. The scenes that follow were shot with a GoPro 4 camera set to 4K resolution and mounted on a small gorillapod fastened to a rock. After the camera was recording, I quietly swam away and monitored it from a distance. Now, if you have the patience, here's the challenge, especially for ichthyology students. See how many fish species you can identify. Since this is ultra-high definition video, use a high-resolution monitor. So far, I've come up with 36 species that are listed at the end of the video. Or just pretend you have a 5-minute window on a coral reef far, far away.